Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Coffee Review. Jason Artley here, joined with my cast of friends. We've got Michael Achave and Doug McLean. This is a sequel to last week. So before we get into the magic of Excel and Power BI and Power Query and all sorts of fun things in the millwork estimating world, today we're going to talk about lots of other things too. So first off, how are you doing today, Michael?
Good. Excited for the step number 2. And I did this last week where I was like, make sure you check out the first video, but now it's actually this week. So if you haven't and you're watching this on YouTube, please check out the first video. This is a 2-part series that Doug is doing to advanced data out of review, and how you can manipulate that data with Power Query, which, by the way, Doug, I tried learning a little bit of Power Query just last week because I was trying to transfer data from a Word document into Excel pre-formatted to get it into a different solution. So I did mess around with it. I couldn't figure it out, but it just reminded me how much time you've invested into learning this and being able to manipulate data the way you need it to do. And I was excited to figure out that back end now where we're at with the Power Query side today, the more advanced side. So if you haven't seen the advanced side, that's what we're going through and doing today. The beginner side, make sure you go check it out on YouTube, but excited to further that as well.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. And I've been inspired as well to do more in my Excel world. And if you've tuned in for a while, you've heard me complain that I'm not very good at it. But that's one of my goals for this year, is to get better with Excel, because apparently it's a thing and people use it. So I want to get better at it, and then that will help me, go down this course that Doug is teaching us today. So I mentioned we're going to talk about other things, and I pulled up my magical portal, my crystal ball of Bluebeam things, and it's empty today. So there's no announcements on the Bluebeam side of things, but we'll keep on rolling. So without further ado, we'll turn it over to our friend Doug. Doug, if you want to give another quick introduction and sort of a recap of last week, and for those folks who didn't tune in, and then do your thing.
Okay. Hi. You guys know me. You've seen me in the chat. I'm Doug. I've been doing this Power Query thing for going on 4 years now, learning, growing with it. It's so much fun. And if you're into data and data cleaning and anything like that, you're going to want to learn how to use Power Query. You are going to spend 80% of your time cleaning up messy data. That's the thing. It can manipulate data so much easier than what you're going to do in a standard Excel formula. And the best thing about it is later, you just hit refresh and it repeats itself. So that's the kind of the best thing to do. Michael, I will say getting stuff out of Word is tricky. You might want to consider converting that to a text file first, and then get your data from a text file. That might be a little bit easier. Word is the ugly stepchild of Microsoft Office. So
I tried it I tried it the first time, and I said, okay, I copied everything into an Excel file. And then from there, when I had it in the query, I just couldn't transform the data into Word. So essentially, I had a pre-formulated group of cells, and the data needed to go in those specific cells, and I just couldn't figure it out. So
in most cases, you're going to be doing something. You're going to be splitting the column to do that by number of characters or position, and it's just going to be a trial and error thing to get that in the right spaces to how you break that up. And the biggest thing, and we're going to talk about a little bit later here, is patterns. So when you see a pattern in your data, that's really what you can use. So like I say, getting something out of Word, that's tricky. Most people use, like, text files is something that you want to think about doing, or even Notepad is easier to get data and clean it up out of than Word is. It's just the nature of Word, right? So it could have been something to do with that, but splitting up messy data, that's a big challenge.
Yeah, and right? That's what I was facing, because I had to essentially, like you do, you try to get things correct to get it into this estimating solution, right?
Right.
And that's what mine wasn't for an estimating solution. And for some of us folks listening in, it was for a quiz, which we all know. And I was trying to transform our data for this quiz that we were uploading into somewhere, and I couldn't figure it out. But basically, it was a pre-formatted um, export to import, right? The import needed to be formatted a specific way into the solution to format the quizzes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get the data out of my Word, I just copied and pasted it into Excel. And I was like, great, what if I just power query this thing and get it into these fields to get the answers and the question pre-populated for me? But I was like, it's taking too long, and I just ended up copy pasting.
Oh, yeah, don't ever worry about it taking too long the first time. Even if you fail, you're learning. So you're going to fail more times than you ever succeed.
Oh, I failed like 5 times.
But you're learning. So,
yeah.
So, it's very famous. Edison failed 1,000 times before he invented the light bulb, right? So there you go. So, so today we're going to talk about cleaning up some of that very messy data that happens. So I'm just going to move this over. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and I'm going to bring up my desktop. And right here, so
the penguin.
It's my penguin. Yep. So Review has the ability to export data out of a PDF. So if you have something like this, if you don't know how to do this, you go up to the Edit menu, PDF. It's the File menu, Export. And you can export right here a page region or the entire document. And you can do it to Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. Most of the time it works really, really well. Sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes what happens is you'll get data that looks like this, where it looks like it comes in really nice, but you can see the date column here is offset a little bit later, and these other columns are all offset. Now, if it's a real small data set like this, you're going to go, okay, we're just going to grab this, we're going to move this over and fix it up. But what if this is 8,000 lines long? That's your data set. It's going to be this long. So you want to clean this up real fast. And this is actually quite easy. Now, this is an Excel table. You can tell because it's colorized. You click on it. It's this table design that's right here. Excel tables are really good here for getting from Power Query. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring this data into Power Query. Now we're just going to right-click, get data from table
so wait,
/range.
When you grab the Excel export, it created this table for you when you copied and pasted it.
Correct. I actually made this one up just quickly manually.
Okay.
But yeah, it's going to be exactly the same process. This is going to come in, it's going to export it to Excel, and that's what you're going to get. That's what you're going to see. Right.
And if you didn't see this was in the last video, just for everyone watching in. If you're like, how did we get from here to this advanced part? Well, we have a whole first part. So
yeah, there's part one, and I do recommend you go watch it. Okay, so you got your data here and don't look at everything over here because I did this up, so I practiced it and made sure it worked and got it going on. So, and if you see me looking over to my other screen here, it's because I have the steps written down in a OneNote because there's going to be some coding later, and I just want to make sure I get them right because it's kind of tricky. But in something like this, there's a recipe for this. It's really simple. The very first thing you want to do is you want to bring your header line down a row. So to do that, you come up here on the Home tab where it says use first row as headers. Click the arrow, and you want to say use headers as first row. So that's going to drop that down right away for you. Okay? And this is kind of important as to what you want to do. The next thing you want to do is we want to replace these null values here with nothing, basically hang on, let me make sure I'm doing that right. Headers is first row. And you also want to look at something you can use as a delimiter. And in most cases, you're going to want to use a pipe symbol. Now, if you don't know where the pipe is, it's Shift and the key above your Enter key. So this is what we're going to do.
So everyone look
Okay.
right now. Hold on. Let everybody look.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. So the key right above your enter key, it's a straight bar. You'll see it here in a second. Okay.
That's called a pipe?
It's a pipe. Yes.
I had
Okay.
no idea. I learned something new. Okay, great.
Okay. So we're going to click on this column here, on the column 1 here, and we're going to go to the transform, and we're going to go up here to replace values. Okay. And we're going to replace the null with a space. So you just hit a space. Now, I want everybody to understand something. In Power Query and in data, nulls, zeros, and spaces are actually data. And you have to know how to deal with them. So you can deal with that way. So we're going to put that space in there.
Nulls, zeros, and spaces.
Spaces, yes. A null and a zero are actually different. It might sound the same, but it is actually a little bit different.
How do you have something that has zero data?
You can it can be a zero value. A null is zero. See, a null
That's
value,
still a value
is a value. It is.
So no matter what, there's always a value.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the first column, hold your shift key down, and click on the last column, and you're going to select all columns. We're going to come up, same thing on the transform tab, we're going to merge columns. Now the separator we want to use in this case, we're going to go custom, and we're going to use that pipe symbol. Okay, now if you got a pipe is rarely used in data, so you can use this, and that's why we use this a lot when we're cleaning up data, because it's a common separator that's really not going to show up. Commas are great in North America, but in Europe they use commas as a decimal separator, so you don't really want to use something like that. Dashes will show up, backslashes will show up. Pipes generally don't. So as soon as you do that, and you can name your column here, I'm not going to because it doesn't really matter at this point, and you just click OK. It puts it all into one column very quickly for you. Okay? Now what we're going to do, again, we're going to select this column, and we're going to replace values again, only we're going to replace the space pipe with nothing. So we're just going to leave that blank and just click OK. And you can see how this has shifted over. Did you see that? I'm just going to go back. So we do this. So this is great. So all your steps are over here. So if you ever do want to see what happened before, you can go back. Also, if you screw up, you can just delete something. So it's always good. So
I did that a lot.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to just quickly replace this and just do that again. And now it's as simple as taking this and going split column by delimiter, and it gets the pipe symbol right. You want it at each occurrence of the delimiter, and you just click OK. And now all we got to do is we can remove that column, and we can re-promote our headers, use first row as headers. We have that, home, close and load 2, table on an existing worksheet. I'm just going to drop it right next to it, and away you go. There you go. Your data's cleaned up.
Wow.
And again, it's just a recipe. So these recipes, and I learned this trick from in the Power Query Academy course I took from SkillWave Academy. That's another great YouTube site you guys can look at. Will warn you, it's a little more advanced. But,
okay, so last time we did chat for beginner YouTube. So let me get on YouTube right now and start sharing these advanced ones. Okay. So these are different people, right, than last time?
Yeah. Okay. SkillWave. And the gentleman who runs that, he's local
SkillWave,
to me.
Right?
SkillWave, yeah.
Okay.
He's local to me. He's over on Vancouver Island. So if you know where I live, I'm just a little bit west of Vancouver, British Columbia. So he's over on Vancouver Island, and Ken Poles is one of the OG guys when it comes to Power Query. He is one of the first guys, and a lot of what the current group of Microsoft MVPs have used in order to start their learning journeys. Okay, so this recipe comes from Ken.
So it's Skill Wave
Yep.
is the name of the channel.
I believe so. Yeah.
There's a bunch of Skill Waves, so I'm looking. Is it called Skillway Academy?
Skill Wave Academy. Yeah.
Okay.
Should be that one. Skill Wave Training. That one right there.
Oh, Skill Wave Training, and it's one word.
Training.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Skill Wave Academy. Yeah, that's the actual source. The training company, but this is the YouTube channel. And there's some great videos on here. Monkey Shorts, which are great. They do short little
I'll put this in the chat.
Quick videos, but he's really good.
So there's a question. Could this have been done completely in Excel using concatenated?
Concatenate? Yeah. It could be, but you're gonna, yes, sometimes things are a lot easier to do in Power Query. Some things are easier to do in Excel. It all is going to depend. And like I said at the beginning of this demo, if I've got a 6-line data set, I'm just going to shift those 2 columns over and be done with it. I'm not going to worry about doing something crazy. And sometimes you can get some seriously long formulas, and then the next time you go to do something, you have to redo that formula, and you don't have that saved anywhere. So why not just hit repeat and have it done?
Any other questions for Doug? I don't see anything else in here. This one was way before. Would it be good for changing point codes for offices?
Yeah, you can do that. I mean, if you do something like we did last week, where if you have a table of codes for something and you're going to merge it in and you want to find and replace this and that, absolutely. Power Query can absolutely do that. There's various ways of doing a find replace system in Power Query, either with a list or with a merging data together, or there's even some M code, which is the language of Power Query. There's some M code that will do some find and replace. I even have a custom function that will do that for you. So you build a custom function for find and replace. So there's lots of ways of doing stuff like that. You just need a table to do that. You need a table of what you're going to find and a table to what you want to replace it with, and it works really slick. Okay. So moving on. If everybody's okay, one of the other major issues that comes in when you're bringing in data is something like this that's up top here on this. Right here on this door schedule. That's right here. And this is called a stacked header. And this happens an awful lot in data, okay? An absolute awful lot. And this is normal because this is how people will view data. And whether it's a door schedule or if it's a financial statement where you'll get a month and then you'll get sales and budget kind of thing, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's all going to be like this. This is great for viewing, but in terms of doing anything with this, it's impossible. Okay, so we're going to fix this up, and there's a recipe for doing this, and I'm going to do this a little bit differently, kind of in the pictures of time, where I'm going to kind of combine 2 of these steps here, and show you how to do this. And it's actually not as difficult as you think it is. So I'm going to go sneak back into Power Query here. Now, I have it on my quick access toolbar where I can just launch the Power Query editor right from my toolbar. So I'm going to go down here. Now, again, I do have all of these set up in here. So even if we do speed up, I can walk them back here. So right here, I actually have one here that it's the same kind of deal as a typical door schedule, except what it has one table over here and has one table over here, which happens. Matt, I'm not dissing architects here, but architects lay this out like that on a sheet, and that's normal. You're gonna
scroll.
put.
Let's scroll in here real quick. Let's. This is not something Matt would do. He's also freaking out. So
I
let's
wouldn't
scroll
blame
in
him
right
if he
here.
did because it's absolutely normal for what they would do. I mean,
but let's scroll in. I want to see how broken up that. Go back. Oh,
to what, this one? Okay,
the other one.
so
Yeah,
here,
scroll in. Like, what's going on here with this data breaks?
Okay, so yeah, you have this one equipment schedule for level 2, and it's all broken up like this, and then you're going to go down, and this is going to be level 2, and now you've got one over here for level 3. Well, actually, there's level 2 and level 3. Another equipment schedule for the washrooms, and one over here. Well, you know what? This is normal. Okay, we get this all the time.
But let's take keynote here that it's equipment schedule.
Did I see a line item for a coffee maker in there and a toaster?
You'd be surprised. In architectural plans, you're a civil guy, so architectural plan, especially if it's a built-in coffee maker. Like, we get that all the time in offices and whatnot. This particular plan set is.
I'm pretty sure we have a built-in coffee maker in the Little Rock office, Jason.
Yeah.
No, those aren't built in.
Not built in. It's a countertop, but I suppose it does have a.
It has a water line. Yeah, those are.
Yeah, it's hardwired in and whatnot. But I mean, this is normal. I don't discourage anybody from doing this, but really, if you're trying to sort this out and arrange this and work this out, it's useless.
I think it comes down to it's like the downstream effect, right?
It is.
Being aware.
This is what everybody calls a report view of data rather than tabular data. And like I said, I mean, you could have something like this where you've got a transaction number here. You've got this is a month. This is your sales and your actual month sales and budget, sales budget, month sales budget. I mean, that's normal. Data gets laid out like that all the time. The trick is learning how to clean it up. Okay, and that's kind of the thing. So I got a couple of things with this particular data set, and you can see that it's a mess.
Yeah, that null. So that null is that space that they had, right?
Right.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
No, that was a really bad schedule. I'm on board with you on that. That was terrible. Yeah. I don't know why they had a space between every single piece of data.
Oh, that's a mess. Yeah.
Disclaimer: that was a total example plan from a fictional company. Those plans are not real. No other company ever did that. So we're just using this for data. So don't hold us liable for any sort of slander or anything. Whoever did this, thanks for giving us a good example. You're doing a good job.
So
terrible.
This is the raw data, and this was actually from another page, another data set, but you're going to have the same thing. So you really, really want to look at some patterns before you start doing anything. And number one, you can see right here, I got this top line that says door schedule, and all the way across, well, I really don't need that, okay? Then I've got my next, looks like 3 rows here. Well, those are the rows for that's what I really want to keep, right? And here, okay, it says level P1 here, and I go over here and this side, okay, well, this is the other door schedule that was in another side. And, okay, where's that P1? I don't really have that here. You can also notice this column here is completely blank. So it's nulls all the way down. And if you want to check, you can just kind of do a quick filter check and see it's nulls all the way down. Another thing, you look at even this column here, this is all it has in this. Well, this is actually going to be a little bit problematic. So we're going to have to sort that out later. And if you notice, now I've gone through this data set, so I kind of know this. So there's a speed here going here. That same column actually repeats on the table that was beside it. So that's here. So we're going to have to deal with that in a second. Okay. So this is raw data. So over here you see this is just raw data, and we're going to start with this. And the only thing I've done to this is I remove this top row because I really, really don't need it. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do here is I'm going to reference this table because I'm going to use this a couple of times. So over here in the query, I'm going to go here. I'm going to reference this query. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly rename it. Okay.
So what does reference? Does that make a copy of it essentially?
No, what it does is the source step. So if you notice here in the source step up here, it's going back to the range data tables. So that right there, that's what it's referencing. So any changes I would make to this one, hang on, I just want to get this finished named.
Yeah, no, you can finish it.
Okay. Okay, any changes I would make to this one would automatically show up in this one at the beginning. So it's going to reference it. So that's what's going to happen. Okay.
So it's like duplicate as a dependent.
Duplicate is different. There is a duplicate. So if you were to do this, I can right click and duplicate this. And then in that case, I would get the exact same steps that I had in this one. But as you can see in this one, I just have the source step. Okay, so there are ways to do that if you're going to duplicate something versus you want to reference it. And you're going to do that in any staging query. So this raw data table that comes in, this is what we call a staging query. Okay? So now we're going to work on this one. Now, what I really want to do here is I only want to keep these top 3 rows all the way across. Okay? So I'm going to go up here to keep rows, keep top rows, and I'm just going to type in 3. And the rest of it just disappears. It says it's gone. Now, the reality is it's not gone, but so just kind of remember that. The next thing I want to do is I really don't need these columns repeating themselves, because if you notice, when this data set, that data set was 20 columns wide. So there's the end of it. Then we get that null, and then it just repeats itself. So I don't need that. So I'm just going to click the first one, go over to column 20, hold my shift key, do like that, right click, and this time I'm going to remove the other columns. Okay? But now we've got just the columns I want to work with. Okay?
And you're doing just all typical functions. This isn't you going in and hitting
not yet. We're about to get there. Okay.
I know. I'm just making sure everyone listen in, because I've been following along. He's just selecting actual buttons that are in Power Query. He's not.
These are all. Yeah. These are absolutely.
He's not in the function part.
No.
Which we've been there before, and I was super confused. But hopefully this time I got it right. So let's see.
Yeah. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to transpose this, because we need to really clean this up. You can only ever promote the top row for your headers, so we kind of need to really clean this up a little bit. So we're going to go to the Transform tab, and we're just going to hit Transpose. And now we have this in something we can kind of work in. Okay? So the very, very first thing we want to do to get this is we want to fill down all these nulls. Now, Power Query has a great thing that allows you to fill down and up, but there must be a null value there in order to fill it up. So if those were zeros, you'd have to change those zeros to null by doing it what we did before. So to do that, you just go to the header, click, right click. Right click is your friend. If you don't know where something is, look for the right click. Go fill down. Now you can see it filled in all those lines quite nicely for us. Okay? Now the next thing we want to do, now in this one we have a little bit of a problem here where we have this thing here where we have either a carriage return or a line feed that's coming here. We kind of want to get rid of that right now. So we're going to come in here and we're going to hit Replace Values. And you can see it's already kind of put it in there. So what we're just going to do is we're just going to delete this. So I just deleted that, and I'm just going to replace that with a space. and it's gone. So now it's completely cleaned up, and you can see it's coded that in here. So this is a line feed. Now, had that been a carriage return, this would say CR. Okay, that's how you can get rid of line feeds and carriage returns. It's pretty cool. So now we need to kind of conditionally fill down these nulls because we don't necessarily want them to be where they are. So where are we? I'm just trying to make my add step. Okay. Now we're going to add a custom column to this. So we're going to go to add column, custom column. Now we're going to get into a little bit of coding here. Okay.
So these aren't like custom columns in review.
No, they're not custom. So you're adding a custom field column. So
Okay.
what we're going to do here, so now we're going to start doing a little coding. So if, okay, and just, you've got it over here, and you want column 3, okay, equals null. I prefer to put spaces in there. And, okay, column 2 equals, or sorry, does not equal null, then
Wait, so
1.
Okay, I shall let you finish and then I'll ask a question.
Okay. Else, column 1. Okay, so if you've ever written an if statement in Excel, Excel uses this syntax. It uses if value, if true, value, if false. Okay, Power Query uses an if then else. So in this case, if column 3 is null and column 2 does not equal null, and that's the symbol for does not equal, is the greater than, less than, back to back, then
Did you know that,
else
Jason?
value in column 1.
No.
I mean, I was stopping Doug in the middle of this. So I was like, wait, so that means does not equal?
Well,
less
I
than,
thought
back
Does
to back?
not equal, yes.
Because there's like an equal sign with a slash through it. I was looking for that button if there's like a special character for it.
There is. You'd have to get into an ASCII character for it, but I don't think it would be recognized. So they
Matt said, so does fill down replace all the following: null, 0,
just null.
and blank? Okay.
It'll just null. It'll just replace the null. So if you do have zeros, you have to change those values to null. Okay, and we're actually going to see that here in just a second when after I click, and now we're going to, no syntax errors is all good.
He said, what about the blank?
Right, so there you go. So this is what we want here, okay? Now we need to replace some of these ones because we want some of these ones to come down. So now we need to add a second custom column. So again, add column, custom column. And again, it doesn't really matter what it's named. And we are going to write in this. If, and it's custom 1 equals 1. That's not right. Oh, sorry, not column 1. He even wrote it down. I screwed up. If custom equals 1, then column 2 else custom. So basically what this is, so if custom equals 1, you want to insert the value from column 2 or insert the value from custom. So that's what that means. When it's in these square brackets here, that's a column name. Okay? So now...
Okay.
No. Okay. Oops, it gave me that. But it gave me that as opposed to the custom column dialog. Go ahead, Michael.
So you're basically pulling data from one column. This is what I needed and putting it in this new custom column, but using the 2 existing columns of data, saying when this equals that, pull this data to here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it's an if statement. And remember, it's if, then else. Okay? So if the value is true, do this. If it's then false, do this. So now you see we've actually kind of got these all in order, which is great. But now what all we want to do here, we're going to hold column 1. We're going to hold our control key. We're going to hit custom 1 and then column 3. And we're going to right click, remove other columns. Now you notice the order that I selected those is the order these came in with. Okay? That's kind of important. So that's how you do that. So we're going to go back here. Remember, I selected here, 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 and that came in. And now all we have to do is just merge these columns together. So we're going to go home. It is transform. I have to select them all. Merge columns. Separator, I just want a space in this case, and we can leave it as merged. Hang on, that is not right. Why did that happen? That's not supposed to have happened.
I was all impressed there. Like, that was cool. I didn't know you could do that.
Something was a little bit wrong here. It says room name null. Added custom. Did I put the wrong? I put the wrong something in something here.
Matt says use the pipe. My favorite word.
What is the pipe?
The pipe is that, but I actually got
the pipe. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So where's my add column? Column.
That's gonna be a good word.
Column
for sure.
3 equals
only
null,
people that use Power Query
and
will
column 2
understand
equals
it,
null,
right?
then 1 else
It's
column
pipe.
2. Oh, else.
Pipe.
Oh, it's right here. This here should be column 2. That's where my typo was. Okay, so now I can just go back. See, now I can go back to my steps and get what I want and go here. And now again, I'm just going to go here. I'm going to go merge columns, and I want this with a space, and I'm just going to do that. So now we've got this. Okay, now there's a little problem here that you might not notice, and it's something that you need to kind of pay attention to. So I'm going to click off to the right over here, and I want you to look down here, and maybe I can zoom in on this a little bit. So if you look down here, I click here. You see there's a trailing space. Do you see that?
Yep.
We don't want that. If we go to this, because that will throw off your data. If you start typing in a formula later and just put in NO period as inside of a quote, that's what it's going to look for, not knowing that there's a blank space there. And you don't want
data,
that. So
right?
Right. It's later. So all you really have to do here is right-click, transform, trim. So now when I click in that cell, it's right up against it.
But how does it know to trim that?
It's coded that way to trim off leading and trailing spaces. Okay. If you wanted to get rid of extra spaces that are in between here, you would use clean. So it probably wouldn't be, because this one looks like is there 1 or 2 spaces in here? It looks like there's 2. So it might be better to go here as well and go transform and go clean. And yeah, or if you got any double spaces, you could find, so replace values, double space with a space, clean it up. Just get it so it's cleaned up a little bit. Okay, so yeah, so it's, remember, if you're going to do that in Excel, you would do a double quote. You can do the same find and replace steps in double quotes. Okay, so now our headers are fixed up, and now the last thing we have to do is just transpose it backwards, and it's done. You're nicely cleaned up.
Look at that. And that's to clean up the headers, right?
That's
What
just
that
to clean up the headers. It's absolutely right. Okay, I notice we're getting a little tight on time here, so I'm just going to walk through the rest of the steps rather than typing it in. I was kind of worried about doing that. So
I won't talk anymore.
remember, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I was just kind of worried about that, so that's why one of the reasons I did this. Now, remember my initial data set was this. Okay. Well, in the next step, I'm going to re-reference this again, and I'm going to go back to here. So now this is the same table, by the way. There's no trickery here. Same trickery here. I just have the steps on there. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove those same top rows. So now we get into this particular point. Okay, so we see this, that we just removed those same top rows. The table.skip, that's the command. The source, which is the previous step, and 3 rows. Okay, so we still have a lot of this problem here. The first thing we have to deal with is we have to deal with this null column here. For this trick to work, there has to be a value somewhere in this column. Okay, so my next step I went FX, or actually what I did is here, and I went right click, replace values. It's in here somewhere. Okay, trust me, it's in there somewhere. I went replace values. I went replace values, and I'm just going to zoom in here a bit so everybody can read this. Replace values null with NA. It really doesn't matter what that's going to be, but I had to replace that value. It couldn't be null. And I did that in column 14 and column 35, which is the same column that was over in the other table. Okay? And the next thing I did here, I added a custom column or custom step to this. And to do that, you can just click this little F of X, and you'll get a custom step. Now we're going to get into some really funky stuff here. So the first thing you want to write when you do this, and you build these tables, and you're gonna build them like this. So it was table 2 column. So here you're going to go FX, F of X, and you're going to go here, and just put your cursor in front, make a little thing, and you can write this table. And the IntelliSense is going to come up, and it's going to be table 2 columns. You just hit tab like you would in Excel. You're writing an Excel formula. Go to the end, okay, and you're going to get a list. So you took all that, and we pumped that into one list. And you can, when you click in that, you can see that list. And what this has done is it took all of those individual columns that were in this data, and it turned them into one list. A column with a list of lists. Okay? I know it's kind of tricky to explain, but that's really what it does.
List on lists.
Go ahead.
I said lists on lists.
Yeah. I'm going to delete this, and I'm just going to jump to this point. So, and then I need to make this a table, because before it was a list, it wasn't a table. So you go table from list, and then you want to use this command down the end, which is splitter split by nothing. So you don't want to split that up. You want to leave that in one column. Okay? Now we're going to add another custom column here, which is a true false based on a condition. So again, it's table add column, which we're adding a column, custom 1, which is the previous step, custom, which is the name of the column, and then you have an iterator function, which is an each. Okay, list is empty, list remove nulls from column 1. So you can build this up a little bit. You're going to remove all the nulls. And you can see this column here says true. Okay, so if I were to click in the list off the side, this is all null. If I click up here, there's a value in here. Now this is why I needed to put that in here as NA, because if this was null, this would say true. And we don't want that in this case because we want to keep that data in our data set because it was part of the original table. So that's what we needed to do there. And I tried this multiple different ways, and this was by far and away the easiest. Okay? The next thing we're going to do here is a group by function. Okay? So this is what we do. We do a table.group, and to do this, you just kind of go like this. You go, this is all done by code, but normally if you're going to do a group by, you would just grab this, you go add column, group by, and you can go like this. Now we did this, and this group kind local, what this step does is it will grab all the falses and put them together. Then it stops because there's a true. So it puts that together, and it will grab the next group that's all the same. So that step there is, again, that's an add-on step that you have to learn to know where it is because it's not normally said. Okay? So now you have this, and if you click here, and there's your table. Here's our table of data, so it hasn't gone away at all. It's all right here. Don't click here. You'll combine the table. Click off to the side. Okay, and this one, it's empty. This one, there's the other table right there. Okay, now we're going to filter out. I can't do this. The next thing I would do is I would do this part of the program where you're going to filter this out for you just want the trues, but these have some nested steps in them that are going to do this. So once this is run, you get this problem. You get this. So this is all where you go. And if you notice now, there's only 20 columns. There's 324 rows. I go back up to the source, 41 columns and 165 rows. Okay? So this has literally taken the column that was over here, the table that was over here, and put it here. That's exactly what it's done. If I can scroll this down, and there's those P3 doors, nulls. You get this level of doors. Keep going. Here's your 300 doors. And if I go back over to my source, here are those 2s and 3s, which is in column 22. Okay? The next thing we need to do is we need to get rid of these nulls. So this next step is filter for null and level. So in this column, or each column, each text starts with column 1 level. So all those ones where it started with level, I can get rid of, and the column does not equal null. And you can see all of a sudden we've gone down to 178 rows. So it's got rid of all those nulls. All that data is there. The last thing we need to do for all of this, so I'm just going to bring this back a little bit. Oops. It's a little slow. The only thing we need to finish up here is we need to append these two tables together because we still have our headers, which is here, and we have our data, which is here. Okay? So I'm going to go up to the Home tab, go to Append Queries, which is what you use if you want to stack two tables on top of each other. Append Queries is new, and this dialog box is going to come up. Now, the first thing I want is I want my headers, MCR, and then I want my stacking side by side. And if you notice, I use something here. It's called camel case. If you're a coder, you'll know what that is. Basically means you capitalize each word, but no spaces. Okay, and it helps in steps for how that works. If you notice something, I can show you something here in just a second. But you notice up here, you notice how this doesn't have that little hashtag and the quotes around it like some of these other ones would. That's why you do that. Okay, so I'm going to just do a quick append here. Okay, it's going to name it as append 1. We're going to give it a good name here, and we're going to go finish table. It's good. And the only thing we have to do here is we have to promote our headers to the first row. And it's good practice at this point to set your data types. So in here, you notice that you have data types. These are all pretty good, except for this one, which came up as an any type. And I'm just going to do it up here. So I'm just going to do this, and I'm just going to call it text, and click OK. And now you see the icon change to text, and it's good. And you're good, and it's just close and load 2. We're going to put this on as a table, as a new worksheet. We're going to go over here, and we're just going to drop it in there, and now it's done. That's complete. So now that door schedule, and the way it looked, and it was here, this is the door schedule that I used. That mess
is now, would you say it's like true data now?
Yes, it's now in what's known as tabular data. I'm just going to move this one because I hate doing this. Okay, so now it's what's known as tabular data. And now you can use this on however you want. You can use your standard Excel formulas. You can get counts of different door types. You can do all kinds of stuff with it because you have clean headers all the way down, all the way through. So like this door type here. So if I wanted to very quickly goes equals, if I want a unique list, I can go here and I'm going to go door type. I can just select that. And there you go. There's a full unique list of all the different door types that are in that. And again, I can play with this, filter out the 0. I could sort this, or you could just do whatever I need to with it, really. Right? I can do a whole lot more with it. I can get counts. I can have quite a lot of fun with that.
So what's your, like from a Power Query perspective, this could this have, what you just did, could it have been done natively in Excel, or did you have to have Power Query, you feel like?
You could. It would be very difficult. The stacking of you're going to do it manually. I mean, you can definitely. I mean, normally before we were doing this, till I learned this trick. Oh, and I do have to say on this one, I'm going to thank a fellow by the name of Shandeep Chabra on this one. He runs a YouTube site called Goodly. Please do not watch this until you get way more confident. Okay, he is unbelievable. Okay, and he came up with this trick. Yeah.
Is he in the industry? Is that why
he was
okay.
at one point? Now his whole job is making YouTube videos and as a consultant. Okay, so I mean, before when we did this, we would export one table to one Excel sheet. We'd export the table beside it as another Excel sheet, and then manually paste those together and clean everything up manually. So yes, you can do it.
You want to stop sharing, Doug, because I keep seeing myself. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be good. Yeah. So you can, if you want to do all that stuff manually, this way is a little bit easier. It does take enough to learn. Now, if you want, you can take and copy your code, put it into Notepad or Notepad++ or whatever, and you can actually get there. So I'm actually going to go back to a quick share, and I'm going to show you this. So I'm going to go into the editor again, and I'm going to take that last one here, and if I go in here, the advanced editor, there's the code for doing that. So if you had this copied out somewhere and put in, and then you'd have to tweak a couple of things because each one of these is going to be a little bit different. But once you understand the recipe, it's fairly simple. You know, same thing with the headers query. I mean, it's right there. Once you understand that recipe, it's pretty simple.
So once you understand the steps for the code
Yeah.
to take, because that's what
Yeah.
that is, that's just the series of the code, you can replicate this moving forward. And it's just like you were saying earlier to me, failure to get to the end result is the best part, because then you understand it from a complete perspective. Because if you were to send me that code right there, I would get lost because I didn't understand the beginning steps to the end steps.
Right. Right. So those are basic things you're going to do in Power Query. I mean, the double stack, like I say, double stacked headers, that's a thing. You get report views all the time. That's the way humans view data. You're not always going to get it in clean tabular data formats. It's just the nature of the beast. So you got to know how to clean that up. You're going to get stuff that you wouldn't even expect, and you just have to know how to clean it up. And especially when every month you get that, or every week you get a report that you need to clean up, well, you have your steps, and away you go, right? Once you get into the M code, the possibilities are almost limitless.
So understanding the code to understand and manipulate the data so it's better representative of, and for you, your end goal is to get it into an estimating solution that just needs the data that's clean.
For part of my job too. Another part of my job is I do a lot of the forecasting and those kind of things, because I the senior estimator role in our shop. So we're looking at forecasting and all that. So I am dealing with some time intelligence solutions as well. So we take those hours that we estimate, and we're projecting those out over the course of the next. We really have it set out to the next 3 years. Along with work in progress. Some of the projects we do go out 5 years, but I've limited it to 3.
So you're looking at billable time too.
Yeah, exactly, and shop capacity. So we're looking at, okay, like in the next 8 months or so, do I have capacity for this job, kind of deal. So I am dealing with some of that as well. So there's another side to it. That's where Power BI comes into play, which is like visualizing it and all that. But Power Query is part of Power BI as well. It's a big part of it. And as you learn that, you're going to get into learning how to fix your data, because it's all a mess. And again, you can get this from a PDF, a CSV, a text file, SQL database, Azure database, you name it. The list is long. Excel files, multiple Excel files. I mean, that's kind of the thing. You can bring them all files of a certain type in from a folder, and it's one of the things they really stress. So if you have a bunch of different CSV files all in one folder, you can merge those together in moments.
And visualize the data via Power BI.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Or Excel, but Excel's visualizations kind of suck. Okay, so let's be very blunt here. I mean, the Power Pivot side of Excel, if you're not into that, if you haven't heard of that, maybe not. Microsoft's kind of stopped developing it, and they're developing Power BI instead. But yeah, the visualizations in Power BI are outstanding, and that's where the next level is going, because everybody is so data-centric right now.
So data-centric, agreed.
It's so data-centric, and you have to be.
Yep. And on that note, we'll let Jason wrap this up. We are at time that quick. Can you believe it?
That was amazing,
I'm looking
Doug.
at your face.
Well, just thank you for sharing your data. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and the things that you've learned. Hopefully, over this 2-part series, you've learned something. I know I have. I'm actually more excited than I was this morning to dive in and start playing with this stuff more. And this is part 2 of our 3-part streak of having guests. So I believe next week we're going to have a special guest as well, more on the construction side of things. So that's going to be fun. Join us next week. And as always, if you want to share what you know, give us a shout. We're happy to have folks on here to share. This isn't just about Michael or myself or ATG or anything else. It's just about the community and helping out. So we look forward to seeing you next week. same place, or on the YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. And we will see you next time. Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Bye,
Take care.
guys.
Thanks again, Doug.
No problem. Yep. Bye now.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of the other content on our channel.